Hi, friends. Just getting over the flu, so this is not a very long intro. This episode of Tiny Titans podcast is my friend Angela. She's one of my first friends that I made when I was in the NICU with Carter. And I already love how this interview turned out. I hope you love it. If you have questions about any of the things that you hear today, please leave comments or email the tinytitanspodcast.com, the Tiny Titans podcast at gmail.com. And I will have all of this linked on the video. Enjoy today's podcast. You know what? Ever since I stopped having babies, I have been super duper cold. It's like my
your body temperature went back
left.
to normal, and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, and then I was like, I need like actual clothes. I wear 2 pairs of pants
Yeah.
regularly. I'm not joking. That's not even close to an exaggeration.
No.
Okay, so to start, I have a list of questions.
Sure.
So you kind of know where we're going. Just kind of like
Yeah.
all of it, everything. And I haven't heard very much of the story at all.
Okay.
So I'm really excited to hear
Okay.
the bits and pieces. So the stories that I have heard is probably the more crazy parts of the story. Okay, so let's rewind. River, were you trying to get pregnant? Did you have infertility issues? How did all of that come about?
So we were trying to get pregnant,
Okay.
and no infertility issues.
No,
it
none.
took maybe 6 months.
Okay.
Not long at all.
Okay, but you were working on it. Okay,
Yes.
cool. So then how about pregnancy problems? Were you high risk?
No,
a
I
surprise?
went, before we started trying to get pregnant, I went to the doctor to make sure everything looked good, and she said, yeah, go for it. I had started getting high blood pressure. Oh gosh, I want to say around 20 weeks. I had gestational diabetes early on, though, because of my weight. They had me do the glucose test.
Okay.
And I failed it miserably.
I think it's gross.
Oh, it's terrible.
You know, they never actually got a real one on mine, and I just had to keep drinking the gross drink, and I was like, no.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
done.
so gross. And then you're feeling nauseous, you're already sick all the time because you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So I went in the room and laid down. They let me lay down, and I failed that test badly. So I was monitoring my blood sugars really early on.
Okay, so then was that diet changes?
Diet changes, yeah. And then I did have to start taking a pill because my morning sugars were so, they were just so high all the time.
Okay.
And there was no getting around that one. Not so high, just slightly high every single morning.
Yeah.
So they started making me take a little tiny dose before bed, I think.
Was it getting increasingly worse, or did it just
It was steady.
Okay.
It was steady.
Okay.
As far as what I was monitoring, it might have spiked up at the end, and I just didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because stress and I had preeclampsia.
Times of the day.
And, yeah.
Okay, so you got early information about the diabetes, right? So was that, what month were you then? Was that 3 months? 4 months?
Gosh, that's a good question. I would say it was early. It was probably around 12 weeks.
Okay, so 3-ish months. Okay. So then they were monitoring you, and then when was she actually born? So what was our time?
So she was born at 27 weeks.
Okay, 27. So she missed the whole 3rd trimester too.
Yeah, she did.
So, okay. So then what happened between 12 and 27?
Okay, so I monitored everything and it was fine. It was just checking in with the doctors and nurses. I want to say it was weekly.
Okay. You guys get labs weekly?
Not labs. It was just checking in with my numbers.
Okay.
And my blood pressure numbers. All my blood numbers and blood pressure numbers. Because I was monitoring it at home.
Okay.
And then for Christmas, I was 23 weeks. It was I want to say maybe 24 to 25 weeks, around there. I went to visit family in San Diego.
Okay.
And on the way to the airport to come back, that morning I started feeling really sick. I was throwing up, and I'm something's not right, and my back was hurting really bad.
Back labor?
I don't think so.
No?
They think it might have been a kidney stone, or it might have been my body just telling me something was wrong.
Oh.
Yeah. but it felt like a kidney stone because
Yikes.
I've had those before.
Okay.
So I went to the hospital. I'm like, just to make sure everything's right. So before I went to the airport, I went to the hospital.
In San Diego.
Yes, and I'm
Okay.
like, they're not going to let me onto an airplane like this.
No.
So I was like, I got to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So went there, and my blood pressure was super high. I was still throwing up, and so they admitted me.
Oh my.
And then they got my blood pressure down and transferred me over to another hospital. So that's when
In San Diego.
in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah. So we ended up staying like longer than we had planned.
Yeah.
Thinking that River was probably going to be born there.
Yeah.
At 25 weeks.
Okay.
But they got it all down and they let me go home.
And how were you feeling
felt
then?
sick. I just felt sick.
You were just sick the whole time.
I think it was just tired, stress. I don't know. I was just so tired. Like Jeremy was like, hey, let's get up and let's go shopping. Like he had to get me to get out of bed. He was like, let's go do something normal. So I think that was preeclampsia because.
Okay, so then when did they find out about that?
Okay, so when I got back, I called my doctor to see if I could follow up with her after everything that happened in San Diego.
Okay.
And she had a quick appointment with me. This was maybe a week after I got back, and she said, I looked at everything, and I just don't agree with it. Like, I just don't see what's wrong. Like, she just couldn't figure out what happened. She's like, unless it was just, like, she just didn't know what was going on. So she's like, let's do all the blood work again, and let's do your preeclampsia where you have to, like, keep track of your urine for, what is it, like a day?
Yeah.
Something like that. Like, you have to just keep peeing in the bucket. And then I got the orders for that, and I hadn't gotten to even pick it up. And there was, like, I want to say, like, a couple days later, I was just noticing that there wasn't very much fetal movement because River was a super wiggly kicky kid.
Okay.
Like, all the time. She was really wiggly. So I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, I kept feeling, like, random little flutters, but it was not as much activity as normal.
Okay.
And then I had a bad dream about it, and so I called the doctor, and I was like, hey, this isn't right. There's, like, no fetal movement. Like, I'm not feeling very much. So I went to the emergency, and, like, her heart rate was dropping, and...
Like, how low was it when you got in?
Well, I don't know the exact number.
Or was she just in distress?
I'm not really sure. So the doctor had she drew it for me afterwards. Like, we had a whole talk about it afterwards, and she said it was, like, normal dip, and it just dipped down, and then it came back up normal dip.
Okay.
And so she's like, I don't know how much time you had left, like, or how much time she had left.
Yeah.
So it was, like, a good thing that we went in when we did. And it turned out.
Just always listen to your body.
For sure.
And double, triple check.
For sure.
Everything. Oh my.
Yeah.
So you were sick for just, like, weeks.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And not really knowing it was preeclampsia.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're pregnant. You think, oh my gosh, I'm just sick. I'm just pregnant. This is just miserable right now.
I'm getting worse and worse.
I'm getting to the end, like, this is the third trimester feeling.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was my first pregnancy too, so
didn't
know any better.
I don't know what to feel. This feels like death, but I think that's right.
Yeah, this is how it's supposed to be, right?
Okay, so that's awful. So then you were at your home hospital then?
Yes.
Though.
Luckily, yes.
Okay.
We made it home.
Good. And so then how did it go with, like, did your water break?
No.
Or, like...
My doctor heard the heartbeat. She didn't even come in to see me. My doctor was on that night.
Okay.
So she was behind the nurses panel, like, listening, and she said, who is that patient? And then she said, get OR, get anesthesia, get everybody. So they, like, did that rushing to get me. And then she comes running in, and she's, like, waving a paper. And she's like, we need to get her out now. Like, we need to get your baby out now. OR, like, sign
Probably
this.
with the heart rate. Okay.
Yeah, so it was like everybody just swarmed me.
So was, like, Jeremy with you?
Yes.
Okay, so then he was there.
Yeah, he took me. And I was like, they're going to keep me again. It was just like San Diego, right? That's what I was thinking. Like, it's just like San Diego. They're going to keep me again and get everything normal and send me home. So, like, I wasn't super worried. I just, you know what I mean? I was trying not to, like, work myself up over nothing.
Yeah.
So I wasn't quite prepared for that. I was a little shocked.
So then you didn't bring anything then with you, did you?
Not really.
Okay. So then here you are in the hospital, about to have a baby.
Yeah.
Rush.
Emergency.
Yeah. Okay, so then that was C-section?
Yes.
Okay. So then, how long did that take? for them to go from one to the other?
Oh gosh, it was okay. So I will tell you, because of the anesthesia that they used, she said she had under 2 minutes by the time they put the mask on to get River out.
Oh, because was she having
She
T-cells?
couldn't. No, she couldn't get the anesthesia.
Oh.
It would, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because if it got to her as fast, I understand.
They had to get her out before it got to her. Yes.
Because then her heart would have responded to the anesthetic then, and she would have not made it. Okay. So super serious, quick. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
okay,
so
then they got her out, and so then immediately, what was their assessment? Were they just working on her?
Resuscitation.
Okay, so
she
was she
resuscitated.
blue?
I don't know if she was blue,
but she wasn't breathing?
She wasn't breathing or crying.
Okay. Or
I mean,
crying.
I was out, so this is what I heard afterwards.
Okay. Did Jeremy stay with you, or did
No.
he go with River?
He was in my room, and then once River got to the NICU, they went and got him.
He didn't go with you for the C-section?
He couldn't. No.
They wouldn't let him go in?
They knocked me out. They wanted nobody in there
because
of how serious it was.
Okay,
yeah.
It was very... Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was by himself for a bit.
Can you imagine? I can just think... I know what Doug was telling me when he was waiting for me, and that was like 10 minutes. I cannot imagine him just sitting in a room like, hey, my wife's open on a table. Oh, that makes me so anxious.
It is. It's scary. I'm like, oh, poor guy.
He's
probably so nervous about that.
And then, so then were you okay when they delivered her?
Yeah, I think it was just regular preeclampsia recovery and surgery recovery. So there was
you
really
didn't
nothing...
have complications?
No.
So it's like as soon as you separated from her, you started to get better?
Yes. So
I so hate that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like I know that
pregnancy, like your body is just like, no.
Yeah. For some people just like stay in there forever.
I know.
Oh my gosh. I started feeling better just directly after. So I was wondering like if you felt gross because you had preeclampsia.
So yes, preeclampsia makes you swell. Like all the medicine and stuff that they give you, like your legs were like, they're so huge.
Yeah.
And then I was still tired. They still had me on some blood pressure medication too for a little while after. And because my C-section was emergency and it wasn't done like delicately like they normally would, it took me a while to get walking.
Yeah.
That first walk was rough.
Oh man.
I thought I was gonna fall. I don't know how I didn't fall. It was so painful.
Yeah. You're just like holding yourself together the whole time.
Yeah.
Ugh, I hated it.
And the emotions behind everything too, like being separated from your baby and worrying.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
So hold on, let's rewind. I want to talk about how long it was between when you met River, but how was River, like she was resuscitated and then what happened?
So one of the doctors came in to my room when Jeremy was gone. I told Jeremy to go home and sleep because he stayed with me in San Diego, and I know it's so hard sleeping in a hospital when you're not the patient.
Yeah.
So I said, go home. You know, we lived like 10 minutes away, so he was close. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
yeah,
like,
sleep for like 6 hours and
go
come back.
home. I know, right? I'm like, I'm just going to be up watching TV. Like, this is no big deal. You go home.
Yeah.
So I sent him home, and then one of the doctors, the NICU doctors, came in, and he's like, River, you know, she's doing okay. And he kind of filled me in. I don't really remember a whole lot of what he said because I was tired.
Well,
and
also just right done. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just said, I remember he said she was okay. So I like, okay, good. And I remember feeling so relieved when he came in to tell me that, like, in person, face to face. That really meant a lot to me.
Doctors don't know that like if you're like a surgeon and you like deliver the news personally, so much more, especially in an emergency situation.
Yeah. Like my doctor who delivered, she waited for me to wake up. She was there, and I wasn't even eyes open yet, but she could see my heart rate probably was normal.
Yeah.
And so she started talking to me even though I couldn't talk or open my eyes. She was like, you know, your baby's okay, in the NICU with dad, blah blah blah. So
just to be the person there, I love that. That's so great. I love that. Okay, so good experience.
Yeah,
not all bad. That's awesome.
They did everything, I think, really well there to help me get through that part.
I love that.
Yeah.
So then she was transferred straight to the NICU, and so what was her like prognosis, for lack of a better word, like
just prematurity,
just preemie, and she was doing okay as well as she can at 27, right? At 27
27 and 4
27 and 4 days. Okay, so she was she had a little bit of weight on her, so she should have been.
She was under 2 pounds. She was I don't know how many grams, but she was 112.
Okay, so then she was not as heavy
She was
as what she was supposed
tiny.
to. Okay.
Yeah. So she, she was on oxygen. There was no food. It was all the IVs that were in her umbilical cord. That kind of thing.
Liquid, just doing fluids to start, right? Okay.
Yes. And she had the bilirubin light, so she had the blue light.
Right away.
The first time I saw her, she didn't, but the second time I saw her, she did.
Okay. So then how long was it from when you had her? Because then you probably conked out pretty quick, right?
Yeah. So she was born at 10:15 p.m. I saw her the next day around 4 p.m.
So almost 24 hours.
Almost 24 hours.
How far was your room then? Because you had to get wheeled, right?
Yeah. So is it on the 10th floor?
Okay, it's at.
Where's labor and delivery? Where's
11.
Antepartum?
11.
I don't remember. 10. I was there for like a couple nights and I don't remember.
L&D is 11, but
11.
they've also changed it. Because River's how old?
She's almost 9.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't remember. They've changed it between 11 and 10.
I don't recall where
Antepartum
is.
Floors away.
Yeah, just like
9.
I took an elevator and a bed.
Yeah.
So they wheeled me in my bed because I wasn't ready to walk yet.
In a bed, not in a wheelchair.
Not in a wheelchair.
Okay. They made me wait till I could do a wheelchair, so I had to wait 3 days.
Jeez.
Because I couldn't. It was really long travel also. This is also Cassie. This was not.
Oh.
This is a different hospital.
Got it.
So, but that's almost 24 hours is insane. So then were you like asleep or like just like drugged the whole first day, or were you like worried?
Once my anesthesia wore off, I was just awake. And I was like anxious.
Like, what do I do?
Thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. Like I just couldn't sleep. Like,
were you Googling?
No.
How did you feel about her being preemie?
Scared.
Because you weren't prepared for that, right?
Like I knew nobody who had a preemie. Like,
really?
What do you do? What happens? Like she came in and said, "Okay, we're gonna start pumping," and I'm like, "Wait, I can still do that?" Like I had no clue. I thought I was like, no breastfeeding. Like I just didn't understand that. I thought you like had to hold the baby to get it all going. I don't know. It was just.
It's just new mom.
It was
also,
new mom.
Right?
It was new mom.
Plus new mom and like trauma birth and preemie baby is just like so much.
It's this whole thing.
It's
for
insane.
Sure.
That's so crazy. Okay, so then were you able to like? You weren't able to nurse until 32. They didn't let you try.
She was intubated as well. So it was just pumping and then just saving what I could from that.
Okay.
But my milk supply came in pretty quickly, like normal.
Good.
And because she was eating so little, I stocked up so much milk. So it was really helpful.
Yeah, and then then to have like a stockpile for when she was able to come home too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then that was crazy. First of all, first part of the story.
Yeah.
The second part is the NICU stay. So then.
The NICU life now.
Okay, so downshift into like you have her and you've gone. Well, hold on, because how long were you in the hospital?
It was
just a couple days.
Just a few days, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what happened right then? Did you have time off that you could go?
Yeah.
And
so
Jeremy
I
had time
was
off?
actually working. I worked at the hospital where she was born.
Okay.
So my boss and her boss and a couple coworkers came up to say hi, and my boss had actually made sure that all of my FMLA was ready and told them. Yeah, she helped me, but I had already gotten ahead of that because of what happened in San Diego. I was like, I should have my FMLA ready because baby's gonna come and I'm already getting sick and da da da.
Yeah.
So I had gotten a jump start on that the week before, and it had already been set up, so we were good there. But yeah, she
even a week ahead is like so much improvement.
Yeah,
it just makes everything easier.
For sure.
Okay, great. So did Jeremy have time off?
He did for a little bit, and then he went back to work.
Because then how did you guys do like visiting her? Because I know that
I was there a whole time.
That so then he worked he didn't work in town.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
okay.
He worked at
Okay. So then you guys were pretty close then to the hospital, both of you, to be able to go and see her back and forth. Okay, so that's kind of a more, I mean, in the NICU scheme of things.
People have really hard time with that piece.
Yeah, just being able to be there. So that was already like a good thing that you were able to go back and forth.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those moms that was there consistently, like at the same time every day, and I would stay for a long, like they had to shoo me out. Like
Go
I was
home.
the reason why they made families leave at 7 for shift change, so that way they're like, you need to go eat. No,
Take a break. Take a break. Oh my goodness, Angela.
That's my
Just
fault.
sit there for this is where I live now. That's mine in that box. Okay, so then let's talk about the story of when you first were able to meet River.
Okay. So yes, I was wheeled down into. I saw pictures of her.
Okay.
So Jeremy took pictures and he sent them. So I had it. I was like so paranoid and scared something was wrong with her. Like they weren't telling me. I don't know if that
I was too.
is a
I think
normal
it's a mom thing.
Like
I
'cause
can't
you
see her.
Right, you didn't get to see and count the toes and look at the little features. So I'm like, something's wrong with her, and they're just too scared to tell me until I get better. Like that's what's going through my head. So it was a relief when I saw her and I got to put my hand in there and kind of hold, like touch her and do that sort of thing. I remember the nurse, and you know, I think when it's the new mom the first time, it's kind of a big deal in there, and they're like, okay, you gotta this kind of nurse, like this nurse is gonna be here this day, like it's a new family getting, because that first day is the hardest day.
Yeah, there's so much
The
information.
hardest day, like.
It's
You
like,
get past that first visit and you're okay after that, but that first one is rough.
it's like hitting a wall, and you just are hit with all the emotion, all the information, and you're trying to process it, and you're physically hurting.
Yep.
Because that's part of it too.
And
Is
you're
like,
tired and you have medication in your system, and there's just so much, and you're like,
yeah,
you want to be there.
You want to be present, right?
Yeah.
You want to be like, this is my baby right here, and you're just like,
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, no, I feel that. Okay, so that was a good meeting though. That was like a good experience too.
It was.
So
yes.
I love that. So and then Jeremy had met her before and had like pictures. So then he did all the first diapers and the first stuff. Or did he wait on you to do that?
You know what? I don't really know actually.
If he did.
I feel like because at our NICU, they really want parents to do as much as possible.
Right.
And she was pretty stable. God, that's a good question.
I just didn't know. That was one of the things Doug rubbed in my face. I did her first diaper.
I had pictures of him like putting his hands on her
Yeah.
and holding her just to kind of show us like show me how small. And I imagine that he did do some of the cares though, because they're like, I would be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah. Because
he
they're
was
also
there.
very hands-on with like, you
Yes,
do
and
this
she
like
was
this.
awake and she was kind of like moving a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that he did.
That's so crazy. I love that. Okay, so let's see. What was the next story that I want to go to? You met her, and so then, first of all, what is the longevity of this whole NICU experience?
Like, how long was she there?
Yeah.
It was 277 days.
Okay, 277 days is an insane amount of days.
It is a long stay.
Yes, that's crazy. And so she, so then let's talk about how she was from like the first like week, because the first day is crazy. The first week is even crazier because then they go through that honeymoon stage. So how was that?
So I feel like that first week is when they get all the test results back. They order everything, they get it back, and they can kind of see what that premature birth has done. You know, like what are we looking at?
Yeah.
So along with like new mom hormones and separation and being in the hospital and not like, you know, back and forth. There's that news of like River was diagnosed with a brain bleed, which the doctor had told me that it might turn into cerebral palsy when she got older, but we would have to wait and see. Everything with her heart looked good. Her eyes looked good. There was no other real
Just preemie stuff, just lungs.
Just, working on getting her lungs good because there was some resuscitation which caused, you know, some
extra bruising and everything. Yeah.
So it was just her getting bigger and stronger with that.
Okay.
But we were really concerned at first about that brain bleed and that they were going to go ahead and do another head ultrasound later on and kind of see if it was getting better or worse or what we were doing with that. So we were just soaking in all that news. We were getting into our new norm. I was trying to heal.
I know. A week is like, I don't know, because you were discharged then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was going back and forth at that point. And, like, walking to the car, it just was so tiring. It was so far.
I'm already like, no. Like,
and it was January. It was winter and
Oh,
cold.
man.
And
Oh.
so.
And you got like 4x4s on your feet so that
Yeah.
you don't slip and die.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I would have been like, I stayed in the hospital, girl.
Yeah.
I did not leave.
Yeah.
I stayed in the wheelchair. No, that was,
yeah.
no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That makes me feel insane. I was like, you were just walking around with your insides
Oh yeah.
hanging out.
So it was a time.
So awkward. Okay, so that's interesting. So this is just another thing people don't think of that NICU parents have to do because you're not with your baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So usually if you're a C-section mom, usually you all get discharged together.
Mm-hmm.
You go home and you can be close to everyone together.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to move buildings,
Yeah.
rooms even.
Yeah.
And you had to go.
Like, you don't have to take a shower to go see your baby, right? You just go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Or get in the car, have clothes on.
Yeah, like, think about when you're going to eat
Oh
your
my
food.
goodness gracious. That's
or pumping
insane.
schedules, like, trying to work that into the visitation.
So then what was your norm? So you were off for a little bit, right? So your
For
first,
work?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Knock the blanket down a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. It'll work out.
Yes. So, oh gosh, this was a deal. So I took my maternity leave, and
Right.
for FMLA you get 12 weeks.
Okay.
But because I had such a preemie baby, I knew that I would need some time when she would
Extra.
come home. And she was doing well, so I asked the doctor at my checkup if I could go back to work. And she's like, okay, if you want
At your
to.
6-week checkup?
Yes.
Oh my god.
I only took off 6 weeks, and I
with a C-section?
I hated myself for that because I was so emotional, not ready. Like, the second I walked into work, I was like, high blood pressure. I was just like
It's
freaking
trauma-free.
out. And then I felt bad for being at work because my baby was upstairs, and I felt bad for being upstairs because my work needed me, and I was just like torn. That was tough.
Oh my god.
And then River got sick actually right at when I went back to work too.
Okay, so what did she
That
get
was
sick?
I don't know. That's when it all started to kind of go downhill. When she started not doing so well was when I went back to work. And
At
so,
6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And so then you're kicking yourself. Your mom guilt must have been.
Mom guilt for sure. Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
So it was just her trying to battle all these things, and we're like, is she doing better? Is she not? And it was
Did they know what she was sick with, or was it just that she
No.
started doing bad?
Yeah, it's just she had some virus. They don't
There
know
was
exactly.
okay. So then she had like mucus and secretions and things like that
Mm-hmm.
that we were dealing with.
Yeah, so she got
In
so
her tube then.
sick that they ended up putting her on an oscillator. Like, the sedation and all those things weren't enough. They had to sedate her and put her on an oscillator for a few weeks. It was a while. And I couldn't hold her. Like, I could, but it was
so
work.
jarring.
Yes.
And then so this is for anyone who doesn't know this. This is similar as when you were telling me about Carter.
Mm-hmm.
When Carter had her bad December,
Yeah.
was very similar for River because they both got so sick so fast.
Yeah.
And they got on the oscillator,
Yeah.
and then it was just like you couldn't hardly touch them.
Yeah.
Like you.
And it was like the vibration.
Yes.
Like, oh,
yep.
poor
And they're
thing.
constantly they just constantly looked beat.
Yeah.
Carter just looked exhausted.
Yeah, by the time she was on the oscillator too, she was a pretty big baby. So it's not like the preemie where they're just like kind of still
Sitting there.
and sleepy, you know. This was like a bigger baby that wants to wiggle and move. So it was really tough for her to be still and sleeping. And they had to sedate her pretty
6 weeks after, so she would have been 32.
No, this was after, by the time she got on the oscillator,
Was she past
it
her
was
due
past
date?
her due date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, she was a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Was she, do you know her weight? Or
I
about?
don't recall her weight,
Okay.
no, but she was on a good curve.
She was more like a full-term sized
Yes.
kiddo by then. Okay. So then she was intubated. She was sedated. She on rock and stuff like that. Like
I'm not sure. I don't think
those.
so.
But it was at our hospital.
It
It was a
was.
different. I was at a different hospital for
Okay.
that. But so she was intubated. She was sedated. Were they finding other issues at this time that she was sick? Had they like found her brain bleed?
Oh, that
Or were we
was
still
getting
worried
better.
about that?
We had found out that that was looking better.
Okay.
So we kind of brushed that off to the side, and we were focusing on her lungs and getting
being
her lungs,
sick.
yeah,
Right.
getting her lungs stronger.
Okay.
So we were hoping that the oscillator would give her a break and that she could just sleep and heal and get better, and then we could kind of wean her off of it. But it just wasn't working, and
Was
I
she
just
like fighting it because she was bigger?
in the beginning she was, and then they ended up increasing her sedation just to get her to settle down.
Yeah.
But it was hard seeing her do that, and so when we started talking trach, and one of the nurses had said when they talk trach, that's gonna happen. Like if they're already talking about it, they're gonna do it.
Because they don't tell you until they're.
Yes.
They don't want you to hear it even. Like
Yeah.
they don't want the parents to even hear that word.
Yeah. They
And
don't
then
even want to
once-
talk about it,
Yeah.
like with us. Like, because I remember when it was a whisper, that was like, well, what about trach? And the doctor was like, no, we won't even talk about that. We're gonna be fine. Let's get her through this, and then blah blah blah, and then. But when the nurse said that, I was like, okay, let's just do. If she
Okay.
needs it, I need her. My whole thing for River was normalcy. Like, what is a normal baby doing at this time? Because that's
Okay.
what I want her to do.
Okay.
I want her to try to experience life as she normally would. So she needed to move and bounce and giggle and laugh and stick her tongue out. Like, we had to get those tubes off her. We had to get that tape off of her. We needed to hold her.
Yeah.
So,
So how old was she then?
So she ended up having her trach surgery on May 5th. No, sorry, May 4th.
Okay.
Um,
May the 4th be with you.
Exactly.
Really?
Yes.
Is that how you remember
That's how
it
I
too?
remember.
I was like, no way she did it on
Yes.
Star Wars Day. That's so
she
funny.
had it on Star Wars Day.
Nerd alert. Sorry.
I
That
know.
was my nerd
So
show.
May 4th, and her due date was April 20th. So it was
Okay.
like a couple weeks after her
Okay,
due
so
date.
then she was a bigger kiddo
Mhm.
also.
Yes.
So then she should, in her world, really, she was like, how old then?
Oh, 3
like
months.
3 months.
Mhm.
So then okay. So when you say more active kind of baby, that's what you're talking
But
about.
I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that like when a baby's born early, they start to have an awareness faster than a baby who's born.
I agree with you.
Right?
No, I do agree with you. Yes.
Like there's just some kind of there's something different though about that adjusted.
They're just like ready.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like they want to hold their heads up, and they're like, "You're not even supposed to be born yet. Why are you trying to put your head up?" But they have that urge to be a baby.
Yes.
Before.
Yeah. And I
They
think
wouldn't
it has
have
to do
those.
with just like being inside and being outside and like all those things kick in.
And the lights and sounds and yeah.
Yeah, all the environment changes just like starts new things in their person. So okay, so then how did she do? Well, first of all, my first question is was she still really sick or had she gotten better before they started doing trach?
Well, they had tried to do another. They tried to take her. Yeah, they tried to put her on the nasal cannula. They extubated her and just to see how she would do, and she did not do well. So it was just.
Was her numbers okay when they had extubated her, or was this like a weird trial?
It was a weird trial.
Okay.
It was like a let's.
Hail Mary.
Yes, let's see how she does. And it wasn't the doctor that I thought would have done it, which shocked me. Because I don't want to give any names.
That's
but-
okay. That's okay. We're talking in code.
Yeah. So there was a doctor who I thought would have done it because his heart was like just so much into River and like getting her better that I was worried that he might push her too far.
Okay.
And then another doctor came on, so he was the one who did the trial, and it was just a few hours. I didn't get to see her with it off. They had the NICU cameras. And so I had logged in to see how she was doing, and I saw like the back of her head with the tubes coming back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got so excited, and I like hurried to get over there to see her, but it was over by the time they had already.
She just.
I think they wanted me to not be there. They wanted to get her back on before I got there.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure it's probably
very difficult for parents to see that.
I was gonna say I was gonna say I don't want to know what that looks like.
I think they warn moms now, like you can stay, you don't have to go, but I think they might. I don't know.
Yeah, it might just be like you can step out.
Yeah, if you step
situation.
out, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah. or if they like try maybe to do it when moms aren't there or parents aren't there or something.
It's
I don't
hard to
know.
like sit there and not be able to touch your kid
Yeah.
whenever they're having any sort of issue,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
But like a medical issue, you're just like, I'll do it now.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like, let me do it.
Yeah.
So that's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so she got re-intubated then.
Mhm.
So then she was scheduled for the trach.
Mhm.
And then did she do the trach and the G-tube at the same time?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So then did they have to wait for her to get any bigger, or was that really...
So once we had to wait for her her oxygen requirements to decrease before we transferred her to CCU because she got too big for the NICU.
Okay.
And we went up to the critical care unit where we had like a private room and different like some
Is
of
this
the
like PICU?
Yes. So some
Okay.
of the staff stayed the same. So like all the therapy people were all the same pediatric therapists. She would have the same pulmonologist. It was just her doctors and nurses would be different.
Okay.
But we were just 2 floors down, so
Right.
we were there, and like nurses would like NICU nurses would still come in and say
Pop
hi and
in.
check on her.
So a lot of her team, her care team,
Yes.
knew her.
Yes.
Even though she was transferring and having this big procedure done.
Yes. And then she had the pediatric doctors taking care of her. So it wasn't adult doctors, it was peds.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the good things is I got to know the peds hospitalists really, really well.
Yeah.
Because they would be on for like probably 2 weeks at a time, and they would check in with me, and like I just knew them. And like after we went home, we had to go to emergency ones, and they like it was one of the doctors that I knew, and they're like, oh, what's wrong? Like he came in the room, he's like, what happened? You know, like he knows. I'm like, I don't know.
Like I want you to fix her. I brought her back
I was like, I don't know what we did. But they're like, oh, come on, Riv.
Oh man. Oh, okay. So how did her surgery go? Was it textbook or
Yeah,
did we have
textbook. It was
complications?
fine. No
Okay.
complications. Everything healed up pretty well.
Okay.
And then,
did both at the same time?
Mhm.
And then how long were you in the NICU after her
we
surgery?
were there until May 29th.
Oh,
so a
so
few
you
weeks.
got discharged pretty quickly.
Yes.
After.
Yeah, because she started doing really well after that.
So
just needed
she
some help.
only had her trach for 3 weeks. That's almost never happens. I can't believe I didn't know that until just now.
So she had her trach for 3 weeks, and then we went to the critical care unit.
That's like
And we
almost
stayed
didn't
up there.
need to do the surgery.
Well, she did because
it probably streamlined her.
I think
better,
it gave her
right?
that break that she needed, and she got to feel better faster.
Yeah. That's so crazy. 3
But
weeks.
she was a completely different baby after the surgery.
Yeah.
Like, I got to see her without the tape. She looked at me and she was
looked like a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
like
was
a person.
so much
then.
better.
Yeah.
So much better. And then things just got better after that. There wasn't any more of the roller coaster. We just up until we got to go home.
That's so good.
It was really nice. It was a good decision for her, I think. It's hard.
I'm still stuck on 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so now there is a very famous story of how she lost her
River's
trach.
story. It's 9 years later, and everyone still talks about this one.
It never happens. That
No,
never
it doesn't.
happens. Okay, so on top of not happening with 3 weeks having a trach,
Yeah.
how did she
So
lose her
we
trach?
ended up going to a critical care unit, and just slowly they do everything's done so differently in that unit compared to the NICU. In the NICU, they tweak numbers so fast. Every day it's a different number. In critical care, they just slowly wean down. So it's weeks at this number, then doop, take it down.
Wow.
Weeks at this number, then doop, take it down. Just so that way she doesn't even notice.
Very regimented then. Okay.
And you have to get the okay from the pulmonologist to do that. So he'll come in and check on her and see how she's doing and blah, blah, blah. So our life up there was just the whole, she went up there at the end of May. And so it was all summer we were up there. And we watched the 4th of July fireworks from her window because it was way up there and we got to see a few shows. We had some family come out and visit. They were pretty restrictive, probably more so than the NICU was.
Did you have the private room the whole time?
We did, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, she did have one episode though where I think she got a secretion stuck, and it was when we first got it there. We hadn't even been up there for a week, and so I had no idea what was going on, and so she ended up turning blue, and her vitals just dropped, and so they ended up doing resuscitation on her.
Oh my gosh!
It was so scary. But then they suctioned, and she was fine, and she woke up, and it was the most terrifying moment. I was like, oh,
That's
my
like
gosh.
the simplest thing that like she could have just like
Done it real quick, and it was this whole like code. They called the code, and
oh my
everybody
gosh.
rushed in, and yeah, it was pretty scary. But
medical kids are no joke.
no joke. The littlest things. I mean, it happened again, and I was like, dude, and everyone was like, oh, you were so calm, and I'm like, this is just how it is.
Now I know. Now I
Can't
know.
freak out. Yeah.
Now I know.
Doesn't do anything.
Okay, so okay, wait. Go back to how she lost her trach.
Okay, lost a trach. So we were out there for a few months.
Yep.
Doctor's pulmonologist said, we can start switching her to a different cannula for her trach, and start weaning her like completely so that way she can just go home. Like she can just go home with all the stuff. And he's like, we'll get her home before Thanksgiving. Like that's our goal.
Okay.
So he notified our agency that was getting the nursing staff for home, telling them that she was ready. He sent all the paperwork for us to Medicaid or Medicare and all the things.
Right.
And then, so we knew that she was doing better, that she was healing.
Because the paperwork was actually going through.
Yeah.
They were like, get her.
And there was a nurse who was like, she's going to be fine this spring. She's like, I bet you she's going to be off the trach this spring.
Wow.
And we're like, yay, because we were expecting like 3 or 4. You know, we didn't know how long it was going to take.
Well, that's the other thing they tell you when they put a trach on is
they gave
years.
you that long. Yeah,
years.
They're like, she might need years. Like, we just had to let her figure that out.
Yeah.
And then, so one day, it was right before Halloween. Jeremy and I, it was a Saturday, so we had, done our normal Saturday morning thing. We went and ate breakfast and came up into the NICU, and we had this little bouncy toy that she would like to play in. And we had a note on it for a while saying, please don't leave River alone in this. Like, we just don't want it, we didn't want it to get overused. It was just like, oh, here, let's play together, and you can look at me and bounce.
Don't leave her in it.
Someone was on maternity leave and came back and didn't know that. And so she popped her in there, but she also had like a couple other patients she was looking at, and it was her first day back from maternity leave. And we came in, and River is bouncing, and she does her little smiley thing when me and Jeremy walk in, and we noticed that her trach is just not in. Like, it's not in. There's no alarms going off. She's just being a baby, bouncing up and down around and looking at us and smiling. And we're like, okay. So we both take, we take her and put her on her bed, and we're trying to get it in. And like, it had been long enough that it was out, that like the skin had started to kind of fold onto itself. So we couldn't get it in. So I went and got someone. Her nurse was with another patient. So I got, RT probably. I know RT was there. I remember she was there. And I feel like there was a couple other people that were there. Maybe a different nurse. And we were all trying to get it in, and she was getting upset, but we could hear her crying, which is something we hadn't heard. I mean, like when she was really, really little, like because she had been intubated for so long.
Right.
So we heard her crying, and that was like amazing.
So this like weird thing is happening.
Yes.
Because you just walk in and she doesn't have her trach.
And she's not in distress. Like there was.
And she can breathe.
She was breathing just fine. So we tried it, and we just didn't want to hurt her because it started like bleeding a little bit, and she was crying, and so we're like, okay, stop.
Well, did alarms start going off when she started crying? No.
No, nothing. Yeah. So we called pulmonologist. He was not there because they're on call. They're like, so he was with family, and he was like, just leave it out.
Just like, leave it out.
Okay. And then the pediatrician, who was the peds doctor, came in. And she looked at her, and she had like some students with her too, and she's like, well, this has never happened before. Like, she went and looked at her. She's like, okay, she's fine. So they ended up doing some of the wall nasal cannula for her. Yeah, confirmed that everything looked fine, that she would be okay. And then I think they tried to keep the nasal cannula out, and then her numbers, like while she was sleeping, were kind of going too low. So that's when they're like, okay, just keep it in, and that sort of thing.
So then was that was pretty close to when she was going to come home then?
Yeah, we were getting ready to go.
And then she just bounced it out?
Yeah, she just popped it out. She was ready. And then I would say like 2 days later, they transferred her down to the PICU, or PEDS. There wasn't a PICU yet. It was just PEDS.
Okay, so not intensive care.
Right.
Okay, that's
She was
important.
out of there, yeah.
Okay.
I think, I don't know, maybe it's like a
Well,
part of the
was that
process.
weird for you?
Oh yeah, I tried to get her to sit because
I was
you
gonna say
build.
I think I would have been like real mad. In fact, I
Yeah.
fought tooth and nail to keep her in the NICU.
So you build such a strong relationship with the staff that's caring for your
Yeah.
baby. Like it is so hard to be like, okay, bye, and then leave your medically fragile baby with people you don't know. Because then it's like, okay, I know this nurse and she's taking care of her tonight. And I said hi and blah, blah, blah. And they know how to get a hold of me. And I felt safely
Comfortable.
So great. Like the staff is great there. I know that if she's going to go to another place, she's going to be fine. I just didn't know that yet. You know what I mean? It takes
weird
time.
to know and then to like know it.
Yes.
Like I know it, but I don't feel it.
Yeah. So I tried. I begged. I talked to the manager of CCU and I was like, please, it's just 2 days. Just let her stay. And she's like, okay, we'll try. And then I think maybe it was insurance or costs or something. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe it's part of protocol or something where like someone.
She had to step down?
Yeah, maybe like you have to step down here before you get to go home.
Okay.
You can't just get discharged. I could be wrong though, but I feel like there might have been something higher up from the manager that said she couldn't do that. So it's okay.
I hate that.
It was just like maybe 2 nights. It wasn't very long.
So then did you room out? Did you have to
No,
do rooming
there
out?
wasn't any kind of rooming out for this. It's
Oh,
not like
so
NICU.
Then, so it's just, so then you just like take her. Okay, so then how did that, you just get discharged?
Yeah, it was really kind of weird.
Yeah,
so we had our date. And it was like we had been there for so long.
Yeah.
And so all of the staff from NICU, from CCU, from therapy, from child life, like everybody was coming down that last day to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Because they all knew River and they all knew that she was going home. So we got like tons of pictures. We got like presents and stuff, and it was a fun day. And
it's a big deal.
It is. It is. You've been there for a long time.
277 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we, yeah, and then I don't even remember how it happened, but we might have been waiting for something, like maybe some kind of medical equipment or something to go home with us. But we were waiting for something.
Yeah.
So once it got to us, we asked the nurse, like, can we go?
Now
Like,
what?
is it okay? We go, she goes, yeah, you can go. And so we put her in the stroller, in her car seat, and in the stroller, and we're like, are you sure we can go? And then she's like, yeah, you can go. You're good. You're
feel
good.
like you're stealing a baby?
I mean, I was like, are you sure we're okay? And so we like, okay, so we just walked out.
And that's the first time you've left the hospital.
Yeah,
with
we didn't get to
your
walk her.
child.
Yeah, I mean, even walking her around the unit when she had her trach out, that was a big deal because she had never left her room.
Oh
like
my
walking
gosh.
her, I remember I had to fight tooth and nail to get them to switch the oxygen machine closer to the window so I could pick her up and take her to look outside because she was so far away from the window.
Like,
she
can we
had
please
never
just,
even
like,
really looked
scooch
outside. I'm like, let's just get her off the bed, like do something different.
Yeah.
So
That's so crazy.
that was like asking. And finally they did it, but it took a lot of fighting for that one.
I wonder how much sometimes, like, why they fight so hard for some of those things. I'm just like, don't you, it's like, would it be so hard? I feel like it's not.
Yeah.
Just make it easier.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Okay, so, yay, first of all.
Yeah.
So, 277 days, you go home. Now, this is my next question. Because this was,
Home life.
well, just like the very start, because I was going to put home life for Cassie in one, but the first night, just to bring your first kid home from the NICU, and you had way more complications with your first kiddo than I did with mine.
Yeah.
So how did that first night go? Would she stay in your room? Did you?
Yeah, so she did because she had the machines and everything.
So you set her up in the same room?
Yeah, we did. We had like a little...
And she went home on nasal cannula and her G-tube? Okay.
Yeah.
How many liters was she on? Do you remember? Okay.
I don't know. It was probably quite a bit though.
Okay.
I imagine it would be quite a bit.
She was on a decent amount of support?
Yeah.
Okay.
We still had her connected to all the monitors and stuff so we could hear everything. And you know that nighttime DSAT for no reason.
Yep.
Like it just slips off and it's like, and it, oh man, it just has every night that happened.
Like 3 times a night sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like Jeremy woke up way more for that than me.
You know what? Sometimes you just like don't hear it
Yeah.
anymore. Because after you sit in the NICU for months and months and months, you sort of desensitize to the monitor that's sitting up here.
Yeah.
And then you go home and you focus on it. But sometimes you have to sleep.
Yes.
And your body just doesn't hear them anymore.
Yep.
And that has 100% happened to me.
Yep.
That just happens. Okay, so she's 9 now. River is 9 now.
Yes.
So this is when she came home. How long was she on oxygen after she was home?
We started doing some trials and we got the okay from pulmonology. I'd say like spring. It was probably April.
So 6-ish.
We just had to wait for flu season to be
8
over.
months. Okay.
So
then
it was.
she was doing
no,
pretty
it was
well.
from she got home Halloween, like right before Halloween.
Okay,
until
Halloween.
flu
Thanksgiving
season
was your goal, and you got
Yes.
home before
Before.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So then did she have like a rocky roller coaster when she got home? You know how they have like a transition period?
No.
It
She
was just
pretty
home
good.
and much better?
We had like some issues with like the G tube. She had it for a while at this point, so it was healed.
Right.
But like it kept falling out, and like the thing was popping, and we're like, what is going on?
The balloon inside was popping?
Yes.
That's so weird.
And then it was so hard to get it to go back in. Like we kept having to take her to GI to get them to put it back in for us because we couldn't. And then they were struggling with it too. So there was like something
growing
weird going on in there. So I mean, it worked itself out. It could have just been a growing thing.
So you had more G-tube complications really than oxygen complications.
Yeah, oxygen was a piece of cake. That was
wow,
fine.
that's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
See, everybody is different.
Yeah, and then she was throwing up as well, all the time. Like we would feed her,
Digestive
we'd slow it down.
issues.
Yes. So.
Was it reflux?
She has something called EOE. It's I have to look it up.
Esophageal something,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
basically, it's like an allergy to something, and it causes her esophagus to inflame, and then she kind of just
like a specific food, or
yes.
What is
I
she
don't know.
allergic? You guys don't know yet?
I don't know yet. I have a suspicion.
Is she still having?
Nope, it comes and goes. So when
Okay.
it comes, we give her just a little over-the-counter acid reflux medicine.
So has she just been growing out of it then?
I think so, because she hasn't had it for a few years.
So when was she diagnosed with EOE?
Kindergarten. So.
Okay, so this was quite a while after she was home.
Yes.
Okay, so then she had this problem for that long?
So yes.
Oh my gosh.
I know. They were surprised that they let us go home with it, but I'm like, they can't keep us there for that, so
No.
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But we were working with the feeding clinic, and then, I mean, goodness, we were like in Canada, and I'm like, she's still throwing up all the time. Like, she starts hiccuping and then she throws up. Like, this is out of control. It's
And
so
losing
much.
weight and
Like, her weight wasn't losing. She
No?
wasn't losing weight. That's
Oh.
why. That's why they didn't really care about it.
so then they didn't put her in that category.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, she's just got some sort of
Yeah.
reflux
So
issue.
eventually, like, my prodding and poking on this issue, finally, it was like during COVID though, the GI doctor up in Canada was like, okay, let's have her do an upper GI and see, like, we'll take a biopsy and see what's going on in there, and, like, you know, do all that sort of thing.
Okay.
But because of COVID, they were just prioritizing her at the bottom because she wasn't losing weight. So
Yeah.
all the kiddos who were, I mean, it's understandable. Like, if my kid wasn't getting enough nutrients, I would want them to get before my get, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's more important.
Right.
And they were just, I mean, it's also Canada, so it takes a little bit longer in Canada to get things done.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up moving back here before we even got it done. And we had it done here.
Ugh.
Yeah. And then it was, sure enough, it was the EOE, what the doctor thought
I
it might
can't believe
been.
it's so many years
Yeah.
of her just throwing up
I
for
know.
no reason.
Well, it
Did-
had
was-
started to go away.
Was
and
she on like
then-
some reflux medication when she was a baby?
Mm-mm.
Nothing?
Mm-mm.
And it never affected her weight. That's so crazy.
I know. It's,
Okay, so EOE is an allergy. So let's just fast forward really quickly and do like a quick snapshot of River now.
uh-huh.
So she's 9.
Mhm.
She does not have a trach.
No trick.
She does have a G-tube.
No G-tube.
No G-tube.
No, she lost, that we came out at 4.5.
Oh yes, I knew that. I
Yes.
did know that. Okay, so no G-tube. What are her diagnoses still now?
So she has autism. She's very high functioning though. Like, we just
Okay.
had her reassessed last spring, and the doctor who assessed her said that she almost didn't
Almost
fall in the
doesn't.
category anymore. That she's almost off the spectrum.
Okay.
So we're just gonna keep giving her service, like just providing that environment that she needs to help her
yeah, just
kind of grow out of
grow
it, I
her
guess.
brain.
Yeah.
That's all she's doing. Really.
She does have ADD and ADHD, so she's a very neurodivergent kiddo. And she just
Stimulus.
needs to, Yes, move, yes. And sometimes, like, you have to snap her out, like, hey, where'd you go, kiddo?
I wonder sometimes if that's the jet. Because for
Maybe.
so long, they're just...
Yeah,
And
I'm
when they're
wondering if it's
so
the brain
little...
bleed. Like,
Well,
I
and
mean,
it
it's
could be, like,
genetics.
so
It's
many
both. Like,
things.
it's her experiences in early life. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. They are trying to figure all those things out. So I have a friend who is studying autism, and we were kind of talking about that a little bit. But
Wow.
yeah.
So she's almost off the spectrum. She's almost grown out of all of her preemie
Yeah.
things then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's not even 10.
No, she's like a gym. Like, she does gymnastics. She does soccer. She struggles a little bit with math, and so we get her help with that. And then the focusing piece from the ADHD.
Yeah.
But everything else is good.
That's so great.
Yeah, she's a really cute little kid. I love her. I love how her little head works too. She's just amazing.
No, that's awesome. I just love how, like, first of all, your story starts insane.
Yeah.
Okay, and then to like have almost completely out of the prematurity spectrum entirely by the time she's not even 10.
Yeah.
That's
and
insane.
when she was diagnosed with it, I didn't think that was even possible. I thought it was just you're in it, and maybe that's still true.
Well, I mean, think
changes.
of just like
I don't really know a whole lot
at the
about it
beginning
yet.
of the conversation, you told me that you thought she might have cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
And then she almost died.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, this girl, she
Yep.
just keeps on, and she just continues to get better.
Yes.
That's so good.
Yes.
I love that so much. So then, where is she going now? She's gonna keep doing gymnastics and keep growing and.
Yeah, there's nothing else really changing for her right
just
now.
doing all of the little girl things, right?
Yeah, just working on getting school done. Like, it can be a little bit of a struggle, so we're still trying to figure out that piece of helping her stay focused in school, because it is hard. And just to be fair, and I always check with Riv too. Like, how do you feel? What do you want? Like, I try to make her a big part of those decisions. I don't just do it all for her.
Yeah. Well, she's older now.
She is older. Yeah.
So here's another question: have you talked to River about her preemie, like preemie-ness?
She does know it, yeah.
And like, what does she think about that? Like, about how it, like, does she see it as different or?
I don't think so. I try to really not look at it as it's a bad thing, because I don't want her to feel like anything was her fault or it's like a sad memory. You know, that's just
part of River.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of her story.
I mean, it is. It's her story, and I'm still healing from it. Like, that's a lot of trauma for someone to go through, and my husband too. Yeah, it's something that I work on, but I don't ever want her to feel like it's her fault.
No.
So I'm very mindful to make sure that she knows that experience was
probably.
Yeah. Like, I bring up all the positive things. Like, wow, yes, that was so scary. Here you are. You're strong and you're beautiful and you're accomplishing so much given what you've been through.
Yeah.
So,
and having setbacks and delays and overcoming all of those things.
Yep.
Killing it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
So my other questions are about parent advocacy and nest questions. So are you comfortable?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you start volunteering with the NICU after?
Yeah, so I'm sure that a lot of other NICU moms did the same thing as me, where they just kept in touch with so many of the nurses, because you're there for so long and you're sitting and there's like no one else to talk to. So they're your support to get through that.
And they also check in with you too.
They do, and they become friends. And one of them in particular became a good friend of mine. And like, even after having moved to Canada, we kept in touch. So when I came back, we met up and our girls got together. And then she had started going, they had started bringing back the family advisory council stuff and the family partner program, because they shut it down during COVID and they were just bringing it back up. So she needed some new parents. So she asked me if I wanted to, and I said yes, because I had needed that so much when I was there. Like, with the trach, wrapping your head around that, the nurses can tell you and the doctors can tell you all these things, but it's like, how does a kid go to school with that? Yeah. How does a parent go to the grocery store? There's just like these little things that like they can't answer.
Yeah, and it's the experience part.
It is. It is, and it's being in that mind frame when you're talking to someone. Like, I did it. I was a parent, you know. I mean, I actually didn't do it because she got it out before she went home.
Well,
but
yes.
it was like, yeah. So I had needed that so bad. So I started, what was it, 22? When was Carter born? You were like
22.
22. Okay. Yeah, you were one of my first families that
August
I got to see.
22nd. So that's why I was wondering.
It was in August. It was like the beginning of August.
Okay, so then, because I very much remember you and Tina coming.
We were
through.
so new. We were like, we don't know what we're doing
and
yet.
you were like, do you want to talk to us? And I was like, yes, I do. I, in fact, am having a very bad day.
And Tina is so great with that, too.
So, you know what I wanted to ask you about was when you and Tina started, like, your friendship up and how that happened.
Okay, so when we were in the NICU, it was a very different experience. They didn't want families talking to each other. They wanted to keep that HIPAA violation privacy thing. So while it is an open pod unit, you pretend like no one's there. And so we had been going through all this stuff. Like, basically, Tina's baby and River were born at the same time.
Okay.
Like, they were just a couple weeks apart. And they were also, like, very similar in gestation. So we had that in common.
Yeah.
Like, it was that journey that was in common. And they had called them the NICU twins, even though they weren't twins, because their medications were the same. Everything was the same for those two. So they were next to each other. Mm-hmm. And Tina was there with her husband all the time, and I was there with Jeremy all the time. And we never really said hi. And then I think Tina said that she asked if she could, and they're like, well, we really don't think that's okay. So she never did. And then I think we connected through Facebook after they went home, because they went home right about when we were supposed to go home, before River had gotten sick.
Oh.
So once they got discharged and they found us on Facebook, we connected there. And then we sort of kept in touch that way. And then we met up at NICU reunions, and we just became friends. And now we have like Christmas at their house. Like we're
That's
just
so great.
Yeah, we're just really good friends, and I love that family so much. They mean a lot to me. So,
but you guys were like neighbors in the NICU, right?
Yeah, and
so you didn't actually be friends.
No, and to think like we could have
just
really
sitting
helped,
there.
We could have helped each other get through all of that.
Yeah.
That was so much, and it would have been nice to have the company, right? Like I had the nurses, and they're great, but like. I mean, our personalities were like perfect for each other.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy and her husband's personality.
So then that experience now has like fueled your parent advocacy and networking between parents.
And now when I talk to families, I'm just like, oh gosh, we got to get this group, the Snapchat group back together, because these moms are burnt out and they're tired and they need each other right now.
Yeah.
Like this is they're all having the mom guilt. They're all of them.
And then there's something about, like, when you're, like, in the middle of trauma, for some reason you, like, can't see, because you're going through so much, you can't see if anyone else is going through it. So then when someone else is like, hey, I also am doing this trauma, it's so hard. I had a mom when we were at a snack chat, I think you were with me.
Probably.
She was trying to tell me that they had just gotten there, he had just gotten born, and her baby was super sick, and we were about to go home with Carter, and she wasn't quite understanding when I said that we had already been there for 9 months and we're going home. She just heard that we were going home, so she kept saying comments like, well, you're so lucky, well, you're so, like, it's
gosh, just don't compare stories. That's one of the things
she was in a very bad place, and I was trying really hard to lift her out of that and be like, hey, I know because I was there, but she couldn't hear anything besides we're going home. And it took another nurse to be like, no, she's already been, you just got here, she already did it all.
Yeah.
And they're going home. And then she was like, you've been here for almost a year?
Yeah.
And then she was like, oh, okay. And then she finally was like talking more like, okay, tell me your story.
The way your head works when you're in there, crazy. Like, I remember getting upset when people would go home. I remember getting upset when babies were born over 30 weeks. I remember getting upset when women were pregnant and about to have babies in the elevator. Like, it would all just make me cry because you're grieving all that loss that you didn't get that part.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and as a mom who has a preemie baby first, you're in the back of your head, even if you don't know it yet, you're like, am I ever going to have a full-term baby?
Yeah.
Because that's how it starts.
Yeah.
So that's so crazy.
Pregnant.
Yeah. So then you volunteer with the Nest.
Oh, I
now.
get paid. I work for them now.
You work for the
I
Nest?
do, yeah.
So then it didn't work out with the hospital, but
It didn't. Nope. I still go into the hospital and volunteer.
Okay.
It's like once a week I go in and just chat with parents.
okay.
So I do the bedside support. But yes, I work for the Nest. I am the director of fundraising, so I do all the fundraisers, grants. I just bring in all the money for them, so that way we
love
can
it.
keep supporting these families.
And we made so much. I
Yeah.
say we because I just like feel kindred.
Good. I like that.
We made so much more than the goal this year.
Yes. And then I told myself next year we're gonna beat that one. We're gonna
Yeah.
get more next year. So
Just like slowly. Do you know about like how many families you help like a year? Do you have numbers like that?
I don't know because they keep trying to change it. So it depends on how much money we get for donations.
Okay.
So it kind of fluctuates a little bit.
Okay.
I'm working on getting some other outside of Nest resources just in case we can't support someone because there are so many families in there that need help.
Yeah.
And they primarily try to focus on the preemies, like the really like micro preemies.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're going to be there a long time.
Yeah.
And they tend to have a lot more complications.
Well, and you have more
But-
meetings and more. It's just more everything,
They
really.
need more support, but it's like there's some families who live really far away and need help with gas. So we're like, well, how do we get help for those families? So I'm kind of trying to find other places where we can go that can help, or maybe increasing the number of families that we can help if I can get enough donations for it.
Okay. I love that.
I
And the
know.
Nest is only driven by donations, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's nonprofit community service.
Okay, so then, really quickly, what does the Nest do? Like, what's the Nest mission statement, if you will?
It's the mission statement is to bring parents to their babies in the NICU.
Yeah.
To give them gas cards, transportation, food. We're trying to eliminate all the barriers that keep moms and dads and whoever the caregivers are away from their babies. You want to be with their families.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
So important. So where could they go if they wanted to donate?
So the nestpostpartum.org.
Okay.
There's a donation button there.
Great.
And I can give it to you too.
And we'll link it.
Okay.
We'll link it here.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay.
Good.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
sharing
having
today.
me.
Do a high five. Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it.
All right.
I love it. That was
Good.
awesome.
That was fun.
And stop.